Hi guys, it's Mrs. Craig here, and I am going to go over the top three most missed questions on your pre-ACT that you just took in October. So the science test is a little bit wonky because it comes at the end of your testing. So you're already kind of tired when you start taking the science portion. And so I want you to take that into consideration when you are taking this test. So we are going to go over the top three most missed questions, and I am going to give you a couple helpful hints and tricks that will hopefully help you increase your score next time. You guys did really well this time, so definitely want you to increase it even more. So let's get started. First of all, these are the ones that we missed the most. So number 5, number 21, and number 25. As you can see, out of 100, we only had 30% correct here, 34% correct here, and then 24% correct on number 25. So I'm going to go over each question with you, and again, just kind of help you dissect these questions a little bit easier. All right. So this is where your question is found in this box here. So question number 5, it reads, was the average annual pH for Harp Lake from 1991 through 1997 acidic or basic? Okay, so the first thing I want to do, I'm going to grab this pen here so that I can annotate, which you should also be doing when you are testing. So when I say annotate, I just mean writing on your test, underlining things, highlighting things that you know are important to when you are taking your test. So first thing that I noticed is that it's asking me for acidic or basic. Okay, so if you know anything about the pH scale, you know that the scale runs from 0 to 14, and right in the middle is number 7, which is for usually your water. Okay, so distilled water is going to be at 7 with a neutral pH. Anything lower than that, anything lower than 7 is going to be considered acidic. Anything higher than that is going to be considered basic. Okay, so we have this table here, a lot of numbers. We don't need to look at any of these. The number one thing we're looking at is right here. So it says, no, from 1991 through 1997, the lake had an average annual pH of 6.3. So this number right here tells us everything we need to know. Says, was the average annual pH for Harp Lake from 1991 through 1997 acidic or basic? Again, if you know anything about the pH scale, you will automatically cross off D and C because we know we are not dealing with basic. It is acidic. It is less than 7. Okay, so again, if you go back here, acidic because its pH was less than 7. That is something that we know to be true. The answer also coincides with that. So we will be picking A as our final answer. The reason why B is wrong is because it says acidic, but then it also says because its pH was greater than 7. Anything greater than 7 is basic, okay? All right, so moving on to the next one. This one is super tricky. First of all, looking at this figure, there are 4 different lines and they are all different, but it can get a little bit confusing. Not sure what we're looking at here. So there is going to be some reading involved in this one. So let's go over the question. Thebe is one of Jupiter's smaller moons. Thebe completes one orbit of Jupiter in approximately 0.7 days. Based on figure 2, regardless of direction, the maximum value of theta for Thebe is most likely. Okay, so the first thing about this is I see this symbol, okay? May or may not know what this is, but let's go ahead and take a look at this, okay? So we see this symbol here. We also see this symbol here, okay? So we are probably going to be looking at these values the most, okay, for our answer. So then we look at this figure. It's still confusing. So let's go over here where we have an explanation for what we're going to be looking at. So figure 2 shows theta for each moon from midnight on June 20th, 2012 to midnight on June 28th, 2012. Okay, so that is our x-axis down here. For each moon, one wave cycle represents one orbit around Jupiter, okay? And then if you're still confused, it gives you a little bit more help here in the parentheses. It says, the time to complete one orbit is the time between any 2 consecutive peaks or any 2 consecutive troughs, okay? So let's go ahead and look at this word right here, peaks, okay? So If I know a peak, I know that it is the highest part. Okay. If we think about a mountain, we think about the mountain peak. The mountain peak is at the top. So same thing here. I have these little squiggly lines here, and there are top points to every single one. Okay. So let's look at IO. All right. In IO, we have the peak, first peak right here. I'll make a little line. Second peak right here. So we know that for IO, my pen isn't working. Let's see. Okay. So, interesting. Just a minute. Technical errors here. Okay, I'll just use this one. Okay, so this is my 2 consecutive peaks. Okay, so this is for Io. So Io is going to take about 2 days in order for it to have 1 orbit around Jupiter. Okay, so again, go back to the question. We are trying to figure out Thebe. All right, Thebe unfortunately is nowhere in our key. So let's look for some trends. So with every single moon, as we increase in the peaks, okay, so the increase in peaks also coincides with the over here, the theta value. So the longer, okay, that it takes. So remember, this one took about 2 days. And then if you look, if you can see clearly through here, we'll look over here at Europa. Europa took even longer. Look how much longer it takes from this peak to this peak, okay? So, and then here, same thing. This one took even longer, and then Callisto took the longest, okay? Because we only see 1 peak here, so it hasn't even completed 1 orbit. So we can look at this and we can see a trend. The theta value coincides with the time to orbit, meaning the longer the orbit, the higher the theta value. So here, Thebe, it says it's 0.7 days. So if I go here, I can automatically assume that it's also going to have the lowest theta value. So I'm going to pick A as my answer, okay? Again, that one took a little bit more dissecting, but you guys got this. You can do it. All right, and for our last question, it says, based on the description of the study, was the total number of nymphs tested less than, greater than, or equal to the total number of adult mantises tested, okay? So this question is asking us to compare. We're going to be comparing our nymphs versus our adult mantises, okay? So automatically I'm going over here. I see numbers in my answer, so I'm going to be looking for numbers in my paragraph as well. I don't need to read all of this. I see that we have a total of 50 nymphs, and then we have 25 adult females and 25 adult male mantises, okay? So if I look at this, I can automatically say, oh, we have 25 plus 25, that equals 50. So we have 50 nymphs and 50 adult female and adult male mantises. So I am not going to choose A. I am not going to choose B. I know that it is equal, okay? So let's go ahead and read these answers so that we can make sure we choose the right equal. The first one says equal, a total of 25 nymphs and a total of 25 adult mantises were tested. Well, we go here, there were not 25 nymphs that were tested. So now that leaves us with D, and you are on your way to scoring higher to your ACT. I hope that these tips and tricks were helpful to you, and I will see you guys next time.